But I do want to start off with some of these coaching grades. Let's go ahead, kick it off with the one that everybody is going to totally agree with. Jedd Fisch to Washington. I'm going to go ahead, give this hire an A- for the Washington Huskies. Obviously, there's a lot of folks in Tucson that aren't going to be too excited and too happy about the one, the only Jedd Fisch moving on from Washington. But I think you look specifically at the last 3 years with the Arizona Wildcats and what Fisch was able to accomplish in Tucson. The Arizona Wildcats had the worst football program in the nation just a few years ago, and it wasn't particularly close, okay? Jedd Fisch had to follow the fumble of Kevin Sumlin and turn this program around. Now, in year one, in 2021, Arizona was 1-11. You look the improvement in 2022, they moved to 5-7, and then in 2023, of course, Jedd Fisch and the Arizona Wildcats had their giant jump, 10-3. They were finished, I believe, 11 in the AP Top 25, won the Alamo Bowl, beat Oklahoma. Jedd Fisch knows how to coach football. He's a good football coach, and that's what this grade is, right? From a football standpoint, from what Jedd Fisch can do for Washington, I think is good. I think Jedd Fisch realistically was probably the best that Washington was going to do that late in the game. You lose, obviously, a talented coach in Kalen DeBoer going to Alabama. You're, of course, going to lose some players when your head coach opts to go to a better program and a better conference and a better school. That's what happened with Washington. But on the field and what Jedd Fisch does, he wins. Jedd Fisch is a winner. Now, again, you could say some things about the staff. I know it looks like he's going to hire Bill Belichick's son to be the defensive coordinator, which is a unique hire.
He loves Bill Belichick, but that's because that's where he came from. He came from the Belichick coaching tree.
And I think, look, Jedd Fisch, regardless of what Arizona fans want to say, I think he is a good football coach, and I think they will win at Washington. Will he do it the way DeBoer did? I'm not necessarily sure if you're going to have Jedd Fisch leading Washington back to the college football playoff, especially in year one. But all he does is win, man. All Jedd Fisch does is win. We got Sharon in the chat. JJ, no one more diehard for ASU basketball than you. Absolutely. JJ, ASU basketball is your drug that you just can't quit, man. You can't quit it, and I don't blame you. ASU hoops is interesting. Okay, it's interesting. I'm not going to say it's good because it's not.
Is it still?
It's a roller coaster. It's
interesting.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's interesting to talk about now because I feel like you can finally start to get to the conversation on whether or not a year after getting his extension, Bobby Hurley is.
Oh, and we'll get into that. We will absolutely get into that. I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited. We haven't talked ASU hoops like real talk in a minute. But moving on from Jedd Fisch in Washington to the guy that was originally at Washington and was the second domino to fall after Nick Saban retired, Kalen DeBoer to Alabama. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give that a B. And look, Kalen DeBoer, similar to Jedd Fisch. What does he do? Well, he wins everywhere he goes. Okay? Fresno State was 3-3 in 2020. Fresno State 9-3 in 2021. Immediately when he got to Washington in 2022, it was an 11-2 football team. In 2023, 14-1 college football playoff. Second best team in the country. Okay? Kalen DeBoer is one of, if not the best coach in college football as it stands right now. Now, I know there are arguments for Dan Lanning. There are arguments for Kirby Smart. But I think when it comes to just pure football, I'm not sure if there's anybody that I like more on the rise in college football than Kalen DeBoer. Like I said, Kirby Smart probably, now that we're having this discussion, is the best coach in college football. But Kalen DeBoer he's a damn good coach. And I think Alabama, again, did the best that they could in that time, being that Mike Norvell and Dan Lanning didn't necessarily appear eager to go to Tuscaloosa. Because how can you replace Nick Saban, right? And that's why DeBoer gets a B from me, is because you are never going to surpass what Nick Saban did at Alabama, especially if you're the coach like DeBoer that has to immediately follow. And you saw the moment that Saban retired, the number of five-star players, five-star recruits that opted to hit the portal, that opted to look elsewhere and ended up elsewhere. Ohio State, Texas, Georgia. Why? Because they know the pedigree, right? Alabama was getting a different level of player year in and year out under Nick Saban. Will they continue to do it? Maybe. But until Kalen DeBoer proves that from a recruiting standpoint, he can keep up with what Nick Saban built at Alabama, I don't think you can really give him anything higher than a B. And again, what's the drop-off, right? Alabama year over year has been a CFP team. They have been a national championship contender every single season. Does Kalen DeBoer keep it up? It's the same question we just asked of Jedd Fisch at Washington. Will he be able to keep that program afloat in the way that his predecessor did? Potentially. But realistically, Kalen DeBoer has arguably the toughest task of the 4 coaches that we're going to be talking about. Short bus in the chat. Jedd Fisch Sticks is like every U of A fan's dad. Said he was going out for MILF and ended up in another state with someone hotter than his ex. That's tough. That's tough, man.
Yikes.
just a yikes. Just a yikes. Sharon, he's a great coach. Hard to follow behind Nick Saban, but I think he will be good at Bama. Look, it's certainly going to be an interesting college football season next year. I think the storylines going into next year with the coaching changes, the retirements, the transfers, the fact that the CFP is expanded now, it's going to be you could argue next college football season is going to be the most anticipated college football season in the last 20 years. The greatest head coach in college football history retired. How many dominoes fell after that? Washington, Arizona, San Jose State, Boston College still looking for a coach.
Wildcat, right? Yeah, Wildcat Fields makes a good point. You want to be the guy who replaces the guy that replaced the guy.
Yeah, absolutely, because you set yourself up, right? You set yourself up beyond Washington. And I know it's already kind of a joke about Jedd Fisch and how long is he going to be with the Washington Huskies. But realistically, if he wins at Washington, following Kalen DeBoer, the next prime time spot that opens up in the Big Ten, maybe it's Ohio State, right? We know that Jedd Fisch in that Florida job, they flirted before. Like, we'll see what happens, but Wildcat Fields makes a great point. You want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaced the guy. Alexis in the chat. So you don't do post-game shows after ASU basketball losses. Got it. Look, we used to. Most of this season, we did ASU basketball post-game shows, but for a variety of different reasons, we opted to kind of stray away from them. We could discuss that a little bit more when we get into the ASU basketball conversation. But again, it's not just the fact that the team isn't very good. There are a couple different reasons as to why everything has transpired. Share it in the chat. Totri, always needing to pre-read all the comments from Short Bus before committing to reading them on air. Absolutely. I've been got in the past. So yes, definitely Short Bus. I have to pre-read his comments before we get into it, guys. But 2 more coaches that we are going to be discussing here in a second. Like I said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you are new here. We really do appreciate everybody stopping by. Look, this is one that I know is going to get the Arizona Wildcat fans a little riled up because they always seem to agree with me on social media. They love my takes. Absolutely.
Yeah, they love you.
Through and through. You might as well just build a statue of me in Tucson at this point. Look, it doesn't have to be a very big statue. I'm only 5'8", so you could really spare the resources here, but you should put it right outside of Arizona Stadium. That's just my 2 cents on that. But let's go ahead. Let's see what I gave Brent Brennan in his new role at the Arizona Wildcats. It's a C+. It is, and I'll be honest with you, the worst grade of the 4 that we're going to be talking about. And Brent Brennan has a difficult task. Okay, because for his entire coaching career as a head coach at San Jose State, what have they been? Middle of the pack. They've been average. 2017, 2-11. In 2018, 1-11. 2019, 5-7. 7-1 in 2020. That was COVID year. Lost the Arizona Bowl. 2021, 5-7. 2022, 7-5. 2023, 7-6. You're average. You're average. A C is what? It's a passing grade. I teach at Arizona State. You get the job done, you meet the minimum requirements, you get a C. You go above and beyond, then we can start talking about a B and an A. But Brent Brennan, what has he done so far? What has he done so far to prove that he is going to be a high-level coach, that he's going to keep up with what Jedd Fisch did at Arizona. Now, I know there's immediately going to be people saying he retained a lot of the key talent. Noah Fafita, T-Mac. How much of that was Brent Brennan? How much of that was conversations that they had with Brent Brennan? And how much of it
was boosters?
Exactly. How much of it was A, boosters, and B, had nothing to do with Brennan.
The snake that left.
Exactly. And more so to do with, hey, we can win here. We want to stay here. We got something to prove here. That has nothing to do with Brent Brennan at all. And look, I am not entirely sold on Brennan yet. The same way Wildcat Field says it in the chat.
A reasonable one.
You can't be sold on it yet, right? Jedd Fisch at Washington, you can at least have that conversation, right? Because you saw what he did. He won. He turned a program around from shit to stars, right? Washington, Kalen DeBoer to Alabama. Okay, we can start talking about that, right? Great coach. He wins everywhere he goes. Brent Brennan, where's he been? What's he done? Middle of the pack. Been average. And now, I've said it multiple times, it is awesome for Arizona Wildcat fans that you retain Noah Fafita and T-Mac, two great college football players, likely first-round pick talent. But Brennan has the most pressure to succeed out of, I would say, these four coaches. Jedd Fisch, probably an equal amount, right? But Brent Brennan is responsible now for going to the Big 12 with the rival, with Colorado, with Utah, and competing immediately. There isn't a drop-off that you're allowed to have because you retained your two key players. You aren't allowed to have this is our build year. It is Arizona fans, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all think that Arizona belongs in the AP Top 25. They all belong that Arizona should be competing for a CFP spot. Well, Brent Brennan, you better get ready to race, buddy, because when you hit this new conference, teams aren't going to be taking it easy on you. And all you've done at San Jose State, you've been here. You've been here. And Arizona fans, they got a taste of this, right? Have you seen Suits, right? Well, there's a scene in Suits where Harvey Specter, right? The key attorney in New York, he's big hotshot, and he's talking to his associate. And he's like, there's people here, and I like to live up here, right? Well, Brent Brennan, you've been here, and Arizona fans just got a taste of what's up here. And they'll kill you in Tucson. They will run you out of town quick if you don't win.
I mean, for better or for worse, they're an extremely passionate fan base.
Absolutely.
And they will let you know.
They got to win. You got to win fast. That's why Brent Brennan is getting the grade that he is getting. But finally, one other coach that I do want to get into, just in terms of another grade, that is San Jose State's new coach, Niumatalolo, the former Navy coach. Hasn't been at Navy for a few years, but I really, really liked what Ken was able to do with Navy. He's the winningest coach in that program's history. Career record of 109-83. He has coached a lot of football games, and he's doing it realistically at a place that didn't always get a ton of talent, right? You kind of got your hands tied when you're coaching at one of those military schools, Navy, Army, etc., right? Air Force. Like, you are always going to be dealt a little bit more of a tricky hand. You're never going to see those military schools really in the AP Top 25. But I like what Ken was able to do. Again, the winningest coach in that program's history. And a big thing about what he was able to do at Navy is the years that he was there, they went bowling a lot. They went bowling in 07, 08, 09, 10. They went bowling in 2012, 2013,
this is
2014,
all running the triple option.
2015, 2016, 2017, 2019. And you're right. They did it with just running the triple option. So imagine what he's able to do now. Goes to San Jose State. They're going to open up the playbook. Can open up the playbook, and we can actually get some athletes there. I am interested to see just how fast the turnaround is. And again, we've talked about San Jose State being middle of the pack average. Does Ken raise that bar? Potentially. I think he does. But we'll obviously see as the season goes on. Wildcat Fields in the chat. You got to revisit your grades at the end of next season, though. Absolutely. Absolutely. You could even make
There's
those.
one thing you do. It's you'll own up.
Oh yeah, if I miss on something, I will absolutely own up to it. It doesn't happen often though. It doesn't happen often. Okay, but when I miss badly, like Nick Young when he pulled that 3 and turned around before it went in. I do that from time to time, and I'll take the heat for it. But until we get to that point, those are my grades. We'll recap them just one more time all the way through. Jedd Fisch to Washington gets an A-. Then we've got Kalen DeBoer to Alabama, gets a B. Brennan to Arizona gets a C+. And then Niumatalolo gets a B- to San Jose State. Guys, again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button.